So, one of the earliest historical examples we have of blood transfusion is actually during the Middle Ages, under Pope Innocent VIII. You see, at the time, Pope Innocent VIII had a problem that many religious leaders seemed to suffer from. Namely, the problem of dying. And the doctors, or medical practitioners, if we can call them that at the time, that were around Pope Innocent VIII, in his time of need during the Middle Ages, the 1400s, recognized unusually a solution, counter to the normal preventative measure of bloodletting the patient, taking out the negative bad blood from the human body in hopes that they would recover. The doctors around Pope Innocent VIII had a novel idea. Rather than taking out the bad blood, what Pope Innocent VIII needs is some good blood put into him. And so, in their infinite God-inspired wisdom, the doctors around Pope Innocent VIII thought what we need is some young boys, approximately 12 to 14 years old, and what we shall do is we shall transfer their blood to him. And the method that they used to take this blood transfusion was to allow these young boys to bleed, fill up a bath full of the young boys' warm red blood, and then have the Pope lie in this bath with his open wounds and cure him of his ills. Now, the results of this, I am sad to say, were not promising. The Pope and the young boys died shortly after, within a few days, leaving, as most doctors did at that time, everyone dead around them. Nonetheless, Pope Innocent VIII did leave us with one more curious anecdote upon his death. Many centuries later, when historians were uncovering his sarcophagus-like tomb, they found an inscription upon Pope Innocent VIII's tomb. It read, "Here lays the pontificate, discoverer of a new world." Now, the problem with this bold statement is Pope Innocent VIII had the untimely circumstance of dying 7 days before Christopher Columbus set sail for what he believed at the time was China. So here we already have an immediate problem. How could the Pope be the discoverer of a new world if Christopher Columbus hasn't even set sail yet? But the further we dig, the more problems seem to become unburied, like Pope Innocent VIII's tomb. More modern historical research now points to some evidence that Christopher Columbus may have actually stumbled upon the New World in 1485, 7 years before it's claimed, and indeed landed off the coast of Florida, not the West Indies. Common idea that I was told, and that we seem to be told in our public school systems, that Christopher Columbus, the humble, if not slightly sadistic traveler, stumbled upon the court of Spain, got some money, and sailed towards what he believed was China in the attempt to launch a new trading route. But modern historians now recognize there are a couple of problems with this narrative we're taught as kids. And this video's information throughout is indebted to one particular Italian journalist who has been researching Christopher Columbus for the last 25 years, Ruggero Marino, no relation to Aaron Marino of Alpha M, but Ruggero Marino has uncovered some interesting documents that I want to go through. Christopher Columbus was actually no fool, no common sailor. He was a polyglot, speaking 6 or 7 languages. He was very proficient in mathematics, was friends with Tusscolini, who at the time was the leading mapmaker and cartographer of the world. He also married into the Portugal nobility. So already we have a different picture of who Christopher Columbus was. A well-educated, if not slightly cavaliering sailor, but more of a Sir Francis Drake type than some bumbling, sadistic slave driver. 2 is the problem that he really wasn't looking for China. Modern historical records show that in reality what he was looking for was to find an alternative route to Cipangu. Now, Cipangu was known as a large island off the coast of China, and Cipangu is what we now call or refer to as Japan. Now, Cipangu was well known during this time, and even Tusscolini's maps show that, okay, here is Portugal, the United Kingdom, England at the time, and then we have the Atlantic Ocean, and then in the Atlantic Ocean we have this large island, Cipangu, and then China and the like down the coast. Now, the problem lay in the miscalculation of the distance between the European continent and that of Cipangu. They believed it was much shorter than in reality it was, but Tusscolini and Christopher Columbus, who were friends and in constant communication, were well aware that the Earth was not flat. Indeed, they knew by this time that the Earth was quite round. So one, as it's already been hinted at, Christopher Columbus was no fool. He was a well-educated, well-traveled man that was in correspondence and well-networked with the latest cartographers, the latest mathematicians. He married into the Portugal nobility. And indeed, it gets even a little more interesting, as Pope Innocent VIII was known to have, how to put it? Well, he was known to have brought into this world two illegitimate children, if not more, although he was at least willing to claim he had two illegitimate children. Some more research points to the fact that Christopher Columbus may have been another one of Pope Innocent VIII's illegitimate children. Modern historians now believe that although he claimed two, he probably had around 8 illegitimate children, Christopher Columbus being one of them. And if he was not one of the direct illegitimate children, he may have indeed been Pope Innocent VIII's nephew, as in primary historical documents, Christopher Columbus is referred to by Pope Innocent VIII as Nepos. And this then gets curious, as we have two conflicting stories. We have Pope Innocent VIII saying, "Here lies the pontificate, discoverer of the New World," who also happens to be blood related to Christopher Columbus. And then we have the Spanish court. Now, other documents point to the fact, how did Christopher Columbus really secure his funding to these missions? Surely no humble sailor of brutal and sadistic origin can just knock down the gates of the most powerful monarch in Europe at the time and swindle them for all they're worth just to go sail out on a voyage west. No, he was well connected, and two, most primary documents point to the fact that a large sum of the initial funding for Christopher Columbus's journeys were actually provided by Rome, by the Papal States. At least half, if not more. So now we have a lot of piecemeal conjectures, but an interesting alternative hypothesis. The initial voyage can be earlier than 1492, but it could have been still looking for an alternative trading route toward China. Indeed, the evidence still points to that while the idea that he stumbled upon the New World may be true, what happened was he stumbled upon the New World earlier than we're taught. That he actually stumbled upon what we now know as North America in 1485, and that the voyage we're taught, in 1492 Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, was actually either his second or third voyage. By this point, he had already recognized he discovered a new landmass that was obviously not Cipangu. These people were obviously not Asiatic in any meaningful way. This was an entirely new landmass with a different cultures of people. After this voyage, approximately 1485, he came back to the Spanish court, relayed this information, and in his journals, it shows that when he refers to the classic sailing of the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, it's labeled as an armada, which has a different connotation than a seafaring trade expedition voyage. An armada implies during that time, we're talking contemporaneously, would imply that it's really a religious conversion expedition, a more military proselytizing expedition. But you wouldn't have this idea of an armada or a religious military campaign if you were indeed, as we're taught, looking for just a trading route between the already well-established and well-known Cipangu and Chinese Orient. So, once again, this is all conjecture, but part of the power of revisionist history is to allow us to update, hopefully with higher resolution, the way in which we understand the world. And if you're wondering what the heck are my qualifications, I might look like I have the youthful complexion of one of these poor choir boys the Pope Ace doctors, brought into the room to fill a bathtub full of blood. I was trained as a historian. I'm now a journalist. I trained actually for 4 years under the great historian Jonathan Clark from Oxford, who is a incisive and very deliberate historian that radically shaped how most historians and most of the public now think about the English Civil War. So while I don't really like talking about my qualifications, nor do I feel like they're necessary to just use an analytical and curiosity-driven mind to re-examine things in history, I do have some training in this subject. Nonetheless, I want to be clear, this is all conjecture. These are simply corollary points trying to point to a more complex narrative than the one we're taught in school. Nonetheless, I do find, personally, some of this evidence highly compelling that, indeed, while his first voyage may have been an accident, he was indeed looking for an alternative trade route, that voyage happened earlier than 1492. It happened around 1485, was mainly funded by Rome and the Papal States, and that later on in life, as Pope Innocent VIII died, and the Spanish crown installed a more favorable Spanish pope, onto the papal seat, they rewrote the history a little bit to make it look like the Spanish crown had total and legitimate claim to the New World, as if you could write history as, oh yes, we funded the Spanish crown funded this voyage entirely, it is therefore rightfully ours, rather than the fact that actually the Pope's nephew did this with the help of Tusscolini, and yeah, we contributed a little bit of money, but maybe actually Italy has more of a claim to this. It doesn't look so good for Spain. Nevertheless, I do find this a curious case that everything most of us know about Christopher Columbus may indeed actually be wrong. And then it might be time to update our understanding of who Christopher Columbus was and when he did his voyages. Let me know what you guys think. I'll include some links down below in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye.